Hello.
Hello. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to my tribe. And as you can see, today we have a very enthusiastic guest. I'm always having amazing guests. And today I feel this will be a very, very good conversation. So before we start the main topic, Tomasz or Tomek, pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I like it's called My Tribe, and my last name is Maj. It feels like this is a good connection already. But it's your tribe. It's not my tribe, but it's your tribe, so it's good. But it's a good connection. So yes, I prefer using Tomasz because when I speak to people outside of Poland, they're like, "So what is your real name? Is it Tomasz or Tomek?" And I was like, "Fine, let's just use my proper name, Tomasz, and life is easier." I think in Polish with Tomek, Tomcio, Tomuś, those people are like, what is your real name? So I keep it simple for people. It's just Tomasz. Tomasz is easy, although it's not Thomas, which I also get called sometimes. It's Tomasz with a nice Polish sh.
I see.
Yes, yeah.
I see.
So yeah, happy to be here. Very happy to be here. Let's talk about stuff, right?
So we are learning Polish too. Tomasz with Polish.
Tomasz. Like Szczebrzeszyn. It's a nice Polish word. Yes.
And another good stuff, right? So I'm lucky that I'm Polish. I can pronounce Tomasz's name correctly. Yeah. And speaking about stuff. So if you don't know Tomasz Maj yet, I will tell you a little secret. Maybe later Tomasz will be so kind and tell a little bit more about himself. But he knows a lot about Kanban because he's a certified trainer when it comes.
Professional Kanban trainer, yes, I am. Yes, it's true.
So as you can see, we have an expert here in my channel, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. So Tomasz, why Kanban? Why did you decide to become a trainer? Why it was important for you?
So I mean, I've been in the Agile business, let's say, for I always say a decade plus, which makes it sound like a little mystery, and my age becomes a mystery too. So I say a decade plus. But I spent, I started the classical route. I went through like Scrum Mastery, product owner. Then I did some transformations and stuff like that. And at one point I was like, do I know everything? Is there more? Is there something that will amaze me in this agile stuff, in this agile way of working, in agility in general? I know I got the SAFe program consulting because maybe I was the thing that no, not really. SAFe is no secrets there. Nice. I looked in less, maybe some secrets there. No, that's clear. And then I went to a conference in the States where I had the pleasure of speaking due to my previous job. And I met Dan Vacanti there. And Dan Vacanti, who is this guy? Why haven't I heard about it before? And then I got his books. I read them, both of his books, flying back from the States to Poland. I was like, wow, this is the stuff. And then I sort of dug deep, and it's like, in some mysterious way, I missed this whole thing around forecasting, around measuring cycle time, using scatter plots, all that sort of part of knowledge, which is always there. In some weird way, I took a different route and went and learned about it, didn't even touch it. Don't know what happened. Maybe it's just decisions in my life. So I read that book and I was like, this is very different. This changes my perspective around team dynamics, also helping teams in performance, measuring value, and focusing on things that really matter. And it also used language that I could associate with, which is thinking about customers, about our business side, using words that they understand, which is when will it be done, how long do things take, how many things do we get out, and putting value in the center, right? And so those all things were like, I knew all of them in different contexts, but I like how it all brought it together. So then I started exploring the concept more. I talked to my friend who was also already a professional Kanban trainer, and he's like, hey, you should really look into this. And I was like, oh, I got interested. I applied as a trainer. The process, I saw a lot of similarities to Scrum.org's professional Scrum trainer. Like the forms were pretty much the same. I applied to one and I applied, oh, look at that. Similarities. Of course, there are a lot of similarities. So I applied, and then I had a nice chat with Colleen, the CEO, and other trainers there, and they said, you're fit, you know this stuff, you're ready to go. And I was like, woo! And here I am. But it all started with this trigger of like, this is a different way. Like, I love Scrum and I love Agile and I love all the other sort of schools or ways of working, frameworks, methods, whatever. But this was something that just changed like my perspective. That was something new, a new energy to this whole, to everything we're doing. I was doing, especially like this could be so useful in my context of large scale transformations, of talking to people that when they ask me, Tomasz, is Scrum and stand up the same thing? Yeah, maybe not. But I was working with people who got confused with simple terms, and I like how it used terms that they already knew, right? Which is time. Everyone knows time, delivering value, and it just felt like a natural next step of my personal evolution as a agile person. So that's why.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. So we know a little bit about your history. What do you do currently when it comes to your professional life?
Right. So I finished. So last year I stopped my career as a consultant. I worked as a consultant for almost 9 years. I spent 6 of those years was mostly doing large scale transformations. So recently I joined a Swedish scale up in property tech. It's Devo, quite an interesting company that is changing property management, residential property management, to be clear. And I am head of ways of working, or we call it head of product ops. But my main job is to, lead the way of working within our product and engineering organization. And I also lead part of the development of one of our markets, which is the Nordic market. So all the engineers and engineering managers, I also lead that group of people. So I have a dual hat of ways of working and then also the engineering part of our organization. And it's a blast. It's super. Right? Like I feel like, I'm enjoying this a lot, because when you work in consulting, right, it has both goods and bad. Like the good is that you try different things. You can see different worlds and different companies and different places. But there's always a moment of where you have to hand it over, right? Because now it's whoever you work for, it's their responsibility to move it forward, which is great, I enjoy a lot, right? But then you're like, okay, what happened? Like, how well did it go? You're not there. You have to connect, chat, like, hey, how are you guys doing? They'll tell you sometimes it's great, sometimes, meh. So here, I enjoy this sort of, you build it, you own it, you create it, and then you also have to reap the fruits, or let's say the consequences of your changes. And it's so fun. I think I have great people to work with, great partners in doing this. So yeah, I'm sort of creating some more structure and clarity in Odivo in the ways we want to work within engineering right now, right? So it's a blast. And of course, I'm employing or bringing a lot of the concepts that I have learned from Kanban to live here, which makes it even funner, right? So it's great. Yeah. It's quite interesting.
Sounds fantastic. And
Thank you.
Now I have some follow-up questions. So,
sure.
Speaking about Kanban, as a professional trainer, you have a lot of knowledge, and you know that we can actually do a lot, right? With that.
Yes.
Now I'm curious, how do you apply that knowledge, that experience from this hat into your current professional setting?
Yeah, so I look at it in like two angles, right? So it's pattern recognition. I think based off working consulting, what you learn from that is pattern recognition, and then you pair that pattern recognition with understanding how Kanban works, and how flow is important, how flow of work is so critical to the success of any team, of any organization. So that's how I think that's the short answer is like identifying, oh, I've seen this before, and I also know how Kanban practices, Kanban ways of working, the Kanban strategy can really tackle those patterns that I see. And the good news is most companies have similar patterns, similar situations, so it's easy to sort of connect the dots there. So I think that's what I do. Like I try to understand the context, the bigger picture, identify certain patterns that I see, and then think, I know Kanban. There's a connection there. Woohoo! And that's where I should go. So yes, that's what I would say. How it helps me quite a lot. Plus the framing. What I really like about pro Kanban's Kanban strategy is the simplicity of it. There is no roles. There is no meetings. There is no like over-processed. There's no over-process in general of anything. It's quite simple about, there are 4 principles or 4 principles. There are 6 ways of building a workflow, and then there's the metrics that help you improve your end-to-end flow. And you use those, and it's also easy for people to understand. And I think that's what I really do. It's like, at every point on time or in every part of the conversations I have is I constantly ask the people I work with is like, is this helping our flow based on the knowledge we had from running trainings with you and explaining the core concepts of Kanban and flow? Is this helping or hurting our flow? And most people catch on like this. It's super easy to catch on. So they're like, oh, you're right. Actually, I never thought about that. Yeah, that does hurt our flow. We should do it differently. There you go. My job here is done. I fly away. No, that's how I like. It's just so easy. It's so easy to understand. It's like simple terms. It's like it's not over processed. That's why. So, a long answer to your question is: I look at patterns. I find where Kanban can help tackle those negative patterns or amplify the positive patterns, and then through using simple language and simple terms, I work with teams to help them tackle those or amplify those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You have used plural form, teams, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Can you tell me, can you tell my audience to what extent Kanban is used in your current working environment? Is it something that you were able to introduce to majority of the teams, some of the teams? Is it something that you decided to take as the whole organization?
So first of all, I never said it's to our organization when I started this. I never said we're going to start going Kanban, because people have assumptions around what Kanban is. They've seen it somewhere. If you go to Jira, you usually have the Scrum or the Kanban setting. There's a lot of misconceptions. So I said it's about flow, and I use that as the key term. So, and I sort of the workshops I had with now all the teams. So a total of 10 plus teams within the organization. Also beyond my when I introduced myself, right, I said I also am responsible for one of the Nordic engineers, the ones that work on the Nordic platform, the engineers. I also introduced this concept to other areas of our business, of our product and engineering business. So we have also teams for the UK and the US. I've also introduced these concepts there. So I would say across all of our engineers and product and engineering organization, flow is the way of working. This is what we embodied into our ways of working. So flow is the umbrella, right? It's like, this is the number one term. And I think we have, I hope, or I believe that all the teams understand the key concepts of flow. And on top of that, I said, okay, to help us with flow, there is Kanban strategy, which has a very simple sort of rules, guardrails that we should use to help with our flow. That's how I made it to the teams. And in the beginning, I did not mention anything about certifications. I didn't mention anything about that this is a training. I shaped the whole way of bringing flow to the organization using the materials I had as a PKT to I don't want to reinvent the wheel, so I reused it to bring this concept to life in the organization. Yes, so I would say flow is the way of working within all the teams in the product and engineering part of Adivo. What that also means is, like, I never said ditch Scrum or don't ditch Scrum. Do whatever you want. If you work in a waterfall, you can continue working in waterfall. I said nothing around it's this or that. I said flow is your guiding principles, and if Scrum aligns with those, go with Scrum. If you want to do continuous flow and just move things through a process, that's okay. If you have a roadmap with clear milestones and you need to have a bit of waterfall or Scrumfall or any combination of that, go ahead, because they work together. There is a common misconception that it's a choice. It's not a choice. They complement each other. Principles and the ways of working that come with Scrum play beautifully with Kanban, the Kanban strategy and the principles and visualizing the workflow and all those concepts that come from it.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Thank you very much.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
What an excitement in the room. Yay!
Yes, I mean, everyone, like the whole crowd is cheering. You can't hear it because these are good headphones. You have good headphones. But really, the excitement here is off the charts. You know? It's like a concert, like a Britney... No, maybe that's wrong. I don't know. A Metallica concert. The excitement is very high.
I see. So my next question is, do you remember some of the important, interesting aha moments that people had when working with you on the concept of the flow?
I think there was multiple. Let's pick my three favorites. Is that what the first of all is like? There is this concept in the Kanban strategy called the SLE, the service level expectation, which is where we communicate to everyone around the world, like, when can you expect something to be done for 85% of cases? It's a forecast. So it's like, when I joined, I was like, wait, things just take too long here. Like, I don't want to go into a whole problem solving, 5 whys, full whiteboards of, drawing a system flow, whatever. I said, like, it's simple. Like, things take, in 85% of cases, they take a lot of time. It's data. And Jira, we use Jira, and there's this great plugin. Can I say these things? Okay, I'll let you just cut it out later. So in Excel, you can add a Jira plugin to Excel, and it's very easy to import a lot of data into Excel. If you know basic Excel or help with ChatGPT, you can really very simply get a lot of useful metrics just from that. If you also understand the workflow, stuff like that. So but the SLE, what we did is, the first thing we said, like, guys, all the work we do, so bugs, tasks, user stories, we should finish in 7 days or less. Calendar days, 7 calendar days or less. That was the first thing. They're like, that's easy. We can do that. And then, like, the refinement sessions, the planning of work, breaking down work, all that came down to a simple Roman voting of, we get a new item to work on. Yes, 7 days or less, or no, 7 days. If no, we need to break it down. Mm-hmm. And with ChatGPT, that became super easy. You throw it into ChatGPT, you say, slice this work according to these 4 rules, boom, it spits out smaller stories, just like that. So the first sort of big realization from these workshops and from this work is that it's actually quite simple to slice work. It's not a big scientific thing. Of course, it's one thing is using tools to do it, but then there's the context and the discussion within the team. But it's much simpler than before, like story points. First of all, I'm not a fan, but like the discussions that like planning poker is great, but simplifying planning poker to just say, is this bigger than 7 days or smaller than 7 days, also simplifies refinement. Instead of 2-3 hours of doing it, now it takes 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and you're done. Move on, continue working. Same with sprint planning, becomes super simple. Boom, boom, boom. And so I think the first big realization is how simple and how powerful the SLE is as a tool of just saying 85% of our work needs to be in 7 days or less. We're using normal days, not calendar days, because then it doesn't fluctuate due to holidays and all that. Plus, when you work with people on our business side, they don't care. No one counts in working days. And I always use the example of if you order something online and they tell you they'll deliver to you in 14 working days, the thing that pops into your head is 2 weeks. But 14 working days is actually 3 weeks. And we always get super frustrated when we get it after 14 working days rather than 14 days, right? So I always say, like, we use days because it's simple. It's a term that everybody uses. But that's the first big learning, right? That was how simple it is to, by using SLE and setting an ambitious SLE, you can change the way people tackle work and slice work. I think the second big learning was that all our teams were super keen to understand where work comes to them. Where does work come from? Rather than just, they could easily just be racehorses and say, no, I just do my Jira tickets. Boom, Jira out, Jira in, Jira out, Jira in, Jira out. There was like, no, but why this? Why not that? We now have to, we have this SLE of 7 days or less. So let's make the best of it. Let's work on things that really matter. And we want to understand why they matter. We want to understand why are we doing this and not that. So that was a big realization to the product organizations that actually the full team wants to be engaged. And I think the big learning from running the first workshop is the power of having the full team there versus if I just did this for a small group of like product owners, let's say, right? By having the full team there fully engaged in designing their new flow-based process that maximizes flow, is like, look at that. Actually, where we want to know, we want to be further across it, but we also want to validate. We want to understand how people are using our things. We just don't want to be here doing features. We do want to understand it. That was like, I assumed that would be the case, but seeing everyone say it and seeing how important it is to have that end-to-end view for the engineers writing the code, that was a big learning. And something that, of course, I thought, but nice that it got reinforced, that it became the reality. Like, wow, this isn't just something I read in a book, but this is the truth. And it really shows, which was super cool. And third is the power of like item aging. So another very core concept of Kanban is item aging. Like, you don't want items to age. The more they age, usually that's a sign of pileups, a sign of big WIP and WIP work in progress. So what we learned, like we have a pretty simple, most teams had a pretty simple process. Let's say first there was to do in progress code review done, right? So simple enough. I mean, sometimes there was some other in between steps, but in general, that was the step. And what they realized is that many times they, as the team, focus on the beginning of the process, not at the end of the process. So one big realization for them was like, why don't we just, when I wake up in the morning, grab my coffee, I look at my board and I'm like, oh, there's something in code review. How about I help my colleague get it across the line? Because this was an in-person workshop. So I was like, it's just simple, like a kick, like you kick it over the line, like poof, and you get it done. It's like, that's all it needs. Like it's a, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 minutes of your work, but you're actually helping your colleagues get items to done, which is something we should always focus. And, as a Scrum person, the power of done. But this was like a big realization because before, many times, and especially in this remote setting where you don't have that constant collaboration when someone can just yell, "Hey, can you review my item so I can move it?" And we lose a bit of that. That was like, hey, man, like it's just so close to the finish line. Why am I looking at things that I can work on? How about I help my colleagues, right? So that also was a big realization because you visualized it and you understood the end-to-end flow and you had the SLE there. Like, this is how fast we want to finish. So things like that were some of the big learnings. And I didn't say a word. I was just like, everyone came to these conclusions just because of the discussions, because of just looking and thinking retrospectively about how they done it before. So those were my 3 favorites. I said there's other ones, but let's, for the sake of this conversation, let's say those are my 3 favorites. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love your examples, and I feel like if we are new to Kanban, we've learned new things and interesting, valuable ideas through that explanation. Recently, I've learned about, how do we call it? Joe Fallacy, if I'm not mistaken. Are you familiar with that?
No, it sounds good, like a good thing to know. No, I don't.
Right? It sounds great, but it's actually quite interesting. So the fallacy is related to a TV show for children, and it's quite old. And there was a very famous statement in that show claiming that knowledge or knowing is half the battle. And seems like this is a fallacy that we may easily end up with. So telling people what to do or just teaching them using this hat as our main one, right, can lead to frustration because knowing, why it's a fallacy? Because knowing is not half the battle. What truly makes a change is actually doing things, changing behaviors, changing habits. And what I found extremely valuable in your stories is that you act as an enabler instead of the person who tells people what to do. So you are offering them this experience of doing things and creating their own conclusions instead of offering the knowledge. And I think it's a way of handling this G.I. Joe fallacy.
Yeah. That's a great example, right? I think I would say when we introduced flow, I mentioned I have like one slide. Like, I didn't make any slides, but I made flip charts, and I had a total of 5 flip charts with theory, let's say, for the full 2 days of these flow workshops, just to show how simple we kept it, how easy it was. And it was all about the experience of seeing this, like from what big batches are versus small batches, how much they impact our flow and throughput or cycle time. They all like then building your own workflow and having a conversation and being challenged by your colleagues around, like, why do you have 5 steps? Like, just merge it. Like, it's okay. You don't have to have all these approval steps. Think about just the doing steps. Like, yes, that's what I think makes it so powerful. And I was literally surprised how easy or how quickly everyone got it. Like, how easy it became, how it was, how they just got it. I mean, I've never done public classes, right, throughout my career. I mean, I started way back in doing I was a trainer, I think 10 years ago, of like Agile PM and that stuff. But then when I joined consulting and all that, I moved to, I only did internal stuff. So I always was in this bubble of, it's like, I never did had a much diverse group, and I couldn't see reap the benefits of seeing that. But here I did this training. I thought I was so surprised how quickly they got all the concept and how quickly they move. Like, from tomorrow, we're changing this. We're going to do this. Like, whoa, it was just mind-boggling. It was super. It was a great experience. I think it's the G.I. Joe fallacy. It was exactly that. And it's a great, I need to write this down.
I'm happy to share some resources with you.
Okay, cool.
If you're interested. So anyway, if you are listening to our conversation, check the description box. There will be some interesting links for you. So, Tomasz, I have another follow-up question.
Sure.
Because what sometimes I observe is that people start with a huge enthusiasm because, wow, we have learnings, realizations, inspirations, ideas. But have you ever faced the problem that when this initial enthusiasm is going down, people are no longer committed or willing to introduce changes?
Well, I have not observed that here. I mean, it was just such a big fundamental change in the way they work, is that no one reverted back to the old way. I sort of update the organization on a weekly basis around performance against the four flow metrics, and I keep that transparent and open. I actively sort of roam the teams. We can call those. Virtually roam. I go into their Slack channels. I join their meetings. I talk to them to see how it's working. Of course, I guess what maybe changed is there's less conversations about it because it just became, I think, more of a natural way of working. So what that means is like it's no longer a discussion topic. It's okay. This is how we do it. This is how we just operate. This is part of our day-to-day life. Like we don't work on big items. We break things down. Of course, the observation that made other things surface, right? Like how important it is to have proper release process, automated CI, like proper CI/CD, like world-class CI/CD, not the sometimes we do it, sometimes we don't. But that just also became like the next pivot. Like, hey, we need to make sure that flow doesn't stop on the development side, but it also continues all the way to release. We also realized, hey, we need to also work on our discovery, because one of the big learnings of the workshop, like I mentioned, was like the developers or engineers in general want to understand how does work come to us. So we had to now invest in re-emphasizing or redesigning a bit the discovery process to make it much more transparent, stuff like that, right? So I think it's a continuous effort, but what I'm happy is like I have not seen any team revert back or say like this doesn't make sense, this is not a good idea, because what I heard is like you hear, if I do one-on-ones with the engineers that report to me, and I try to constantly be aware of what's going on, is that no one likes long things to be stuck in process for long. No one enjoys it. It's like it's counterintuitive. It just feels bad. Like I've been working on this for 2 weeks. It's like feels terrible. That's where. So they're like, wow, I just get things done. I help my colleagues, and my colleagues help me. This just makes sense. This is how normal work should be. So I think because of what you also described, is like they know now, they understand this, they see the value. There is no reverting back. Of course, we still find like situations where, wow, isn't this big batch? Isn't this going to hurt our flow? I never thought about it that way. You're right. So they're actually openly challenging our external, like people that maybe not be directly in the team, but people that they work with. Like, hey, we need to educate our customers on the other end. Like we're changing the way we work with them. So maybe we should also do a flow training with them to get these concepts in their mind. How this, like stuff like that, is more coming. Like this is why I like, because of the simplicity that comes with Kanban. I think it's not complicated. No one is going to tell you doing it wrong, because it's so simple to do it right. So it's hard to do it wrong. Like it's very, I don't know. That is my view so far.
Thank you very much for sharing. I think it's a really inspiring, right? That you can achieve sustainable changes within the organization. And I have maybe one last question, although I enjoy our conversation a lot, but maybe let's keep it relatively simple and short. I love stories that present real evidence, data, what becomes possible thanks to changes. Do you have any story that you would like and you can share with us?
I think what I already said, right? These are all real. Right? These are real things that happen, right? I think it's. Stories of like two teams realizing, why do we even do Scrum? Not to offend Scrum, but they're like, the way we work, it would just be easier if we just continue. We call it continuously flow. We don't call it Kanban. It's just continuous flow. So work comes in, we sort of move it, and it just flows through us. They sat down. I didn't say this. They sat down themselves and said, hey, I think for the way we operate, this makes more sense. Another team said, no, we're going to stick to our two-week sprints, but we're going to make it much more clear. We're going to shorten all our meetings. Now they do like a 30-minute sprint planning. They do a bit longer retros and a bit longer reviews, sure, but they're optimizing it for flow. But none of this was me saying anything. These are just realizations of the team, right? I really think that's just makes my job so easy because I don't have to convince them. So I think that's one. The other is this humongous realization that development or writing the code is just a piece of the whole thing. To have true end-to-end flow, you need to change the whole organization. You need to you need to bring in the product design. You need to bring in the guys that do architectures, the SDETs, QAs. You have to. The more people are in it, the more people believe it, the better it will be. Because you can easily fall into the trap of, I don't know if we can use a bad word, as poop in, poop out, right? So we can get very good in, optimizing our flow within delivery. I mean, from idea it enters the to-do to the moment it gets released. We can do that super well, let's say. But then, and that can be are we doing the right things? We can now be doing all the bad things quicker. Oh my God. And that's like another big realization. But I think what I would say, you first get your delivery in a good place. So start with understanding cycle time, what impacts your cycle time, optimize for that, and then start thinking about rest. Because without getting that cycle time in a good place, you're still flying blind. But with the SLE, with the cycle time, you set it, you treat that as like your new ambition. You're like, rah! And then things happen. And then, I also what we came to realize, like next step of realization is like the epics we use. They're too big. Our user stories are now nice and 7 days or less, but whoa. We now have epics that had 140 stories, and now each of them 7 days later. Let's do the math. Let's say we do them one by one. Oh my God, that's like years of work. That doesn't make sense. Why are we building? It just has this cascading effect. So, and what is great is this. Again, like I said, that these are realizations made by people doing the work. You don't have to tell them. They start catching on because of the simplicity of it. And we even didn't touch Monte Carlo simulations and all that stuff. And that becomes even, woo! And it's like, whoa, we can actually forecast. We can look, rather than estimating, we can now say, this is a good size of a sprint backlog, or this is how much items we should commit in a month based on how well we did in the last month. Like, wow, boom, the more you get into it, and cycle time and SLE is a tip of an iceberg of all the possibilities that become possible when you start looking at stuff like this. So I don't know. I don't have a story. I think I hope I mentioned multiple situations. It's because it just works. It's one of the first things where I can say, like it's very hard to say like, oh, like the whole agile maturity, you know, you have all these maturity models. Like those are always quite fluffy for me. Like, oh, this team is self-organized on a scale of 1 to 5. What does that even mean? Like, can a team be 3 out of 5 self-organized? What does that mean? Like, tell me. I still don't understand, and I've seen scales like that. But here it's quite simple. Are we able to meet our SLE, and what's getting in the way of it? The discussion is much simpler. Like, and I can tell you, like, I don't think any of the teams really have a stable 7 days rest. Sometimes there's 9, sometimes there's 6, but it's okay because it's still better than 20 or 30. Like this, the power of what it unlocks, and then yeah, that's it. I don't know, but yeah, Monte Carlo. That should be a separate discussion because I love that as well. Not the city I've never been to, but the Monte Carlo simulation and using it for forecasting, it's a blast. It's a blast. Of course, it's a tool that has to be supported by context and situations and talking to people. But it's a great conversation starter for anything, right?
Thank you very
random.
much.
That was a bit random. Sorry, that was a bit of a random rant. I didn't mean it to be that way, but yeah. And there is a machine in the backyard mowing my lawn. So if anyone watches this, they're like, what the hell is happening in the background? Yeah, I'm doing my project garden, and I can tell you, no cycle time, Scrum stand-ups, none of that stuff matters in that world. It's like whatever happens. Whatever you discover, you just have to constantly react to new things. I found a big pothole yesterday, which was nowhere. Like, what do? You react. You operate on a day-to-day basis. So, sorry, I just had to mention that there's a big machine behind my back.
Thank you very much for that explanation. Thanks. I'm curious about this portal. Maybe you will find some hidden treasure. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully treasure.
Who knows?
Treasure.
Who knows?
Yes.
So, Tomasz, I feel like you indirectly invited yourself for another episode, and I'm already excited.
Sure.
To talk about
especially
Monte Carlo.
It's my tribe. My tribe is
exactly.
Perfect.
It's my tribe.
My name fits very well here. So yeah,
definitely
happy to join.
You have to come back, and
I will.
Maybe we can finish for today. So thank you very much for your commitment, for your energy, for all the stories, examples that you shared with me. And I'm already looking forward to see you next time.
Okay, perfect. Let's do something. Hopefully with no truck or no machines behind me, so we can focus. It won't confuse people. But yeah, let's do it. 100%.
Amazing. So thank you very much, everyone. Please come back to my tribe.
Her tribe, not my tribe. Her tribe. Yes.
Have a wonderful day. Have a good night. I don't know what is your time currently, but enjoy your time and come back to me. Bye.
Bye-bye.